Hey friends, Kevin here, and this is going to be one of these safety on the road kind of videos, and I've done these in different ways before, and have some other ideals of things I want to do in the future about this. And I want to talk about my experiences because this big story that's been in the news the last couple of days is this couple from New Hampshire that was murdered down on Padre Island in Texas. We've been there, we've stayed there, we have camped all down the Gulf Coast in Texas in places that were pretty remote, in places that weren't designated camping areas. So we're going to talk about this situation and our experiences and other things that have happened in areas we have traveled in. Now, a basic recap, if you have not seen or read this story, around the middle of October, this couple from New Hampshire was in the Padre Island area, and their family lost touch with them. Finally, they were reported missing, and they were located, shallow grave, and their vehicle was gone. Now, Padre Island, if you're not familiar with it and you've never been there, is the Corpus Christi area of Texas. And you kind of come over this giant bridge and there's this long strip. And there are a couple of towns over there, but once you get about 10 or 12 miles in, it starts to get pretty desolate. And you're on a long strip, and then you come to a visitor center, and this is a national seashore area, this part kind of in the middle of this strip. And they do a lot of studying and a lot of saving and a lot of working with these sea turtles. They will shut certain parts of this down depending on what is going on. But over from where the road goes through this area, you have this beach front area. And you can be in there. I've seen it to where there's vehicle after vehicle after vehicle, and you're probably all 20 feet apart. And at the same time, I've seen it, and we've stayed on sections where you may, wherever you're stopped at, parked at, camped at, you could potentially be 2 miles in either direction from anyone. Because once you come out of that area in the middle, you need four-wheel drive to even be able to go down in there and start exploring. And there's things once you go on down in there, in addition to just camping by yourself and the scenery. I know there's a boat ship that's sunk not too far off the coast that people go to and take pictures to. We haven't gone down that far because when we were out there, we didn't have a vehicle that would get us down that far. I wasn't in anything that was four-wheel drive. And I'm not sure exactly what section that this couple unfortunately was on. But that's the backstory, and let's talk about things in general. A couple of years ago, and this was before I really got into doing videos and YouTube, we were going into Mexico, and we decided, hey, I'd really like to try this beach camping thing. I have this early video where the first night we did it was before we got into Texas, and we got eat up by mosquitoes or fleas, or it was just horrid in Louisiana. But once we got in Texas, we started doing this all down the coast, and it was nice. Some of these areas were in little towns. Some of them were pretty desolate. It was just areas that nobody really did anything. You're not going to have the cops out there patrolling this. They're not going to come out there unless something happens. You're going to pretty much be on your own. And you can be as close to people or as far away from people as you choose to be. Now, if you're an older person or you're a younger person, maybe a lady by themselves, and you're not comfortable, you don't have to go get on top of the next person, but you can go be close to someone. in these situations. And, you know, you can see them out, you can walk down and meet them, introduce yourselves. And we've had this happen several times. You know, there may be some lady in, you know, her 60s or 70s or whatever. She comes down and introduces herself. We're going to keep an eye on her, you know. And decent people you meet on the road, which is most of the people you're going to meet on the road, they're going to do that. You know, they're going to, once they know you, they're going to keep an eye on you, and they're going to help keep an eye on your stuff and make sure everything's all right. And if something was to happen, you have someone that you can go to, you know, that you know. So there's ways that you can alleviate these things that can happen if they're really worrying you. Now, I can tell you, we go and have been to a lot of desolate areas, and there's times, you know, I will shoot a message back to my family. It's like, hey, you're not going to hear from me for 3 or 4 or 5 days. I am out of service areas. There's going to be no cell service. This is roughly where I am. This is roughly where I think I'm going to be in those next few days. And you know the time frame that I'm going to be off the grid. And I think it's important that if you're traveling, you have someone, family, you have a friend, you are at least texting every day or two and letting them know where you are and what's going on, just in case something was to happen. And, you know, that would have enough sense that if they didn't hear from you for a while, they would contact the authorities in the area, you know, where you were, to see what had happened, see if you needed some help, you know, see if some health issue had maybe come up. You know, it's just important to do that. You need to stay in touch with somebody. Now, there's going to be a lot of YouTubers that are making videos and going to make videos on this horrible situation, you know, that has come about with this couple, and I'm certainly not trying to downplay anything. But you know the way this goes. A lot of these people are going to sensationalize this for views and to make some money off of it. The fact is this isn't going to stop me from traveling. It's not going to stop me from going back to Padre Island, South Padre Island. It just isn't. Because I understand that bad things happen pretty much everywhere. Every town that you go to, every little town, they have had something bad happen at some point in their history. Any big thing you go in as a place that you go to in a city, something has usually happened there, and something bad, and it's something people don't want to talk about, and it's not good for tourism if they do talk about it, which is why they tend to cover it up and go on, you know. But I can remember not long after being in New York that a guy went up on the observation deck of the Empire State Building and began shooting people. Killed one, if I remember right, wounded a bunch, and then offed himself. Things happen, and that's not going to stop me from traveling. 9/11 did not stop me from doing the things that I want to do. You know, we only get to live one time. We only get one life. We only get one shot at life, and I want to enjoy it. And hiding away in my house and hoping I live to be 120 years old is not what I'm interested in doing. But with that said, on the road, I'm also aware that there are bad people out there. There are bad people everywhere that you can run into, especially if you're alone. So you do need to think about protection, and I think most people on the road, they're in vans, they're able to get their hand on a knife or a club pretty fast, or pepper spray. Some people like guns, some people don't like guns. That's a personal choice. But you just need to be aware of your surroundings and aware of people. And if you get a bad feeling where you are, get in the front seat, turn the key, and go somewhere else. You know, trust your senses, trust your judgment. And that's probably the best advice for most of us that I can give. If you're not comfortable where you are, if you don't feel safe where you are, if people come in after you that are a little bit sketchy to you and you're not comfortable, leave. Go somewhere else, relocate. Back to, the Padre Island area and just camping down the coast of Texas. I can tell you when you get out there, and I don't want to get some race thing started, and if you have some opinion that, I don't like and you start putting it in the comment section, you're gone. I'm not a big hate-filled person. I will say, though, and let you know that when you go out into these areas that you're going to read about and find out about, there's going to be a large Latino population out there. I would say that the areas that we stayed in, beach camping, in those remote areas in town down the coast of Texas, it was probably 80 or 90% Latino. I have no problem with that. Those people generally are there with their families having family outings. It's generally families, several adults, little kids. I would speak to them as I rode by or walked by. They would speak to me. It was nice. I have no problem with that. I don't think anybody else should have a problem with that. But understand if you're coming from an area where you're not used to that, that may be a little strange to you. But some family out enjoying themselves, I don't have any need to be afraid of. So I've talked about safety before. I put a video up a few months ago showing how fast someone can break into a van or an RV and take your stuff. I'll post a link to that down below. Some of the other things I've done concerning safety and keeping vehicles locked. And you just have to figure out what level of comfort that you can have that causes you not to worry. And what you need to have with you that will make you feel safe and not worry. Because to me, there's not a lot of difference between being out there or living on a farm or living in a house in some rural area, where you aren't close to neighbors. Things happen in those areas too. It's the world we live in. It's not ever going to get any better. So it's just something we have to deal with. But don't let that hinder your enjoyment. Don't let that hinder really where you go. Enjoy that one life that you have, because that's what I plan on doing.